hotter the conflict, the greater the triumph.
A theistic serpent may be overcome by a swarm of ants.
Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. Age wrinkles the body, quitting wrinkles the soul. Battle buddies.
Battle buddies.
Definitely didn't make a new nervous tick for myself with this audio nonsense. Having to redo it a bunch of times.
Have you ever watched baseball players? Like pitchers?
Yes. Let's say yes.
Well, so I say this because...
They have like rituals?
So in honor of like the A's leaving, right? We'll talk about this guy named Balfour. And watching him was really interesting because he would always like wipe the bottom part of his butt cheeks. Like
sure.
He would,
yeah.
It was just always, every single time. And it was like it was a tick.
Yeah.
But it worked for him.
I like that.
So whatever tick you got.
I had a great joke the other day. This has nothing to do with ticks, but I'm really proud of myself. Because I made my wife laugh. Do you make your wife laugh a lot, or does she not actually laugh?
It's difficult.
That's what I'm saying. And especially the longer you get married, the less funny you are to your spouse. And we were traveling back from Colorado this last weekend, and we were taking a red eye because I'm cheap, and I thought that'd be good. And they were calling us up, and it's like, almost midnight. And they're like, we're looking for a Greg Hurts. And I was like, now's my fucking chance. I was like, who did Greg hurt?
Did you truly?
Yeah. And I laughed, and I was like, holy shit. You just laughed. That's bad for you. Like, you shouldn't tell me that you like that kind of joke. She's like, I wasn't laughing at you. I'm just so tired. She's making all these excuses.
Oh, she didn't want to admit that you were funny.
She's like, it was a pity laugh. I was like, nah, it was no pity laugh. I saw teeth.
That's really funny, dude. When I first met you, well, like when I was first getting to meet you, I remember I asked Hannah at one point, I was like, is living in your house just like being around a stand-up comedian the whole time? And she was like, yeah, it's pretty funny. And it's like, do you appreciate this as much as I appreciate it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Here we are.
We're here again.
Iliad part 3.
Part 3, part 2.
To the second part of us doing part 3.
We're there.
Hey, listeners, this is the second time we've done this. We did this with the Battle of New Orleans. I don't know if it was episode 2 or 3, but we crushed part 2 of that episode.
Yep.
So welcome to part 2 of this episode. Just know that we're here out of love.
We are.
We're driven by love.
We are driven by love.
Iliad, let's get it.
All right, so recapping a little bit, part 2, not a whole lot, but we ended with some fighting, and we had the Greeks kind of scared in their camp. Now it's nighttime, and we're going to have a lot of nighttime shenanigans this episode. This episode's a lot of fun. We got a little bit of everything going on. So, we're starting out, Book 9, Greeks sad. My notes say Greeks sad. Sad. Full stop. Agamemnon is like contemplating leaving. Agamemnon being the leader of the Greeks, which is odd, right? Because he did that fake out last time.
Yeah, Agamemnon's in the process of writing a pop punk song called "It Wasn't There for a Reason."
I do,
dude.
like
I'm
this.
telling you, dude, this Iliad story, I'm getting some mad Midwest emo vibes,
Yes.
and I don't even think that Midwest emo people know this.
No,
So that's it.
but wait, was it the Iliad? I found like an Escape the Fate lyric in like a classical literature thing the other day. I was like, where did you even pull this out of? But now I can't remember. But I had it this morning. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and it's gone.
So they're contemplating kind of leaving. The two main guys who are talking Agamemnon out of it is Diomedes. Remember Diomedes? He popped off the last episode with that God-given talent. He had that moment. And old man Nestor, just trying to keep him in line. And I like Diomedes here. He says, you received a double-edged gift from the son of Kronos. Kronos meaning Zeus. Devious schemer, with the scepter he granted you honor above all others, yet courage, the highest power, he did not give you.
Right. So we kind of harped on this last time, where I was confused about the double-edged.
Yeah, the double-edged gift from the son of Kronos. Kronos is the titan that birthed Zeus. And he's saying double-edged, meaning like a double-edged sword, meaning that there's a positive quality and a negative quality to it, or a danger. And basically he's saying is you have the scepter. That scepter we can trace back to Zeus himself. This is a common trope in like these old heroic tales, which is that you have like an item and you trace that item back through other stories. So a lot of items like armor and scepters you would find in other stories with a similar lineage. And so that way they kind of make a continuity between these.
This is the Marvel universe.
This is the Marvel universe.
This is why people get excited when they read things
Yes.
like the Marvel comics or even the Bible.
Sure,
People,
absolutely.
People will be reading the New Testament and be like, whoa, this is a shout out from the Old Testament.
Yeah.
People will be reading the Old Testament and be like, this is a shout out to the New Testament.
Yep.
Other religions do it too. It's what keeps people coming back.
Right.
These connections that
Absolutely.
you speak of.
Well, that's how we can trace Buddhism back to India.
It's good storytelling,
Yeah.
right?
Great lightning vehicle. Love that.
You're a lightning vehicle, dude.
Dang.
Ah!
So the scepter, that's his right to rule. That's what Diomedes is saying. He's like, you have the right to rule, dude. But then he's saying also, you don't have courage, and that's your folly.
You're a bitch.
Yeah. In Agamemnon, I will say this episode specifically, like these books, he pops off a little bit. But this is a good chiding. And remember, we're reading this book from the perspective of why would you want an officer of your current army or military apparatus to be reading the Iliad, because they are.
Why are they studying this?
Why have they been studying? Why have military leaders been studying this book since it was first read out loud before it was written down?
Mm-hmm.
How many books can you say have been studied before they were even books? Right?
Yeah, no.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can see that those focusing on Diomedes and Nestor and their fearlessness with which they tried a scary ass leader like Agamemnon, I think will constantly show us that those that are above lieutenants but are not like acting generals, so like your colonels, maybe lieutenant commanders, right? Anything like that, they have an obligation to challenge the authority because they are the only ones who can do it.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
So who? Remind me again who he's saying is he doesn't have the courage to lead right now.
Diomedes, who just popped off the day
Right.
before, so he kind of has like he's kind of untouchable right now, and he's saying that to Agamemnon.
Okay, so what would have Agamemnon done to have not shown? What has he done in the past where he's like, dude, you don't have the courage to do this?
Well, I think Diomedes is saying directly to Agamemnon right now because Agamemnon is entertaining, let's just fucking go.
Got it. So he's like, you just want to leave.
Yeah, he's like, you can't
Okay.
leave. Like, now's not the time, dude. Now's the time for leaders to lead. Have some courage. And Nestor gives us some interesting military intelligence for the supply line stuff that you and I I
That's
didn't
what
think
a
I was
war
going
is.
to geek out as much, but
That's what it is.
a couple years of doing this, and I'm all about the supply
Mhm.
lines.
Mhm.
So Nestor says, your huts are filled with wine that the ships of the Achaeans bring you in daily across the wide sea from Thrace. And then Nestor also says a little bit later, this night will either shatter our army or preserve it. So we kind of get some foreshadowing here. The first thing is the supply lines. They've been here for 9.5 years or so. The big question that I've had on the logistics side of it is how has the army maintained itself? We do know that there's like a forest in between them and Troy. We do know that there's other neighboring kind of cities and kingdoms that they've been pillaging along the way. But this suggests that some of the closer Greek places like Thrace, that they are actually sending boats in to Agamemnon. And I think they're specifically saying Agamemnon because I don't think any of the other people are allowed to leave. A coalition army, consecrated army? Conscripted army.
Okay.
A conscripted army, consecrated. That's good. I'm keeping that. This is staying. I like this.
That is the.
I'm consecrated.
I'm just happy that you're an English teacher,
Yes.
dude. This is just fun for me.
I do this in front of the kids all the day. Like, what is this word? And I'll write the word.
Kevin shows humility to his students.
Dude, like if I have to write museum, like motherfucker, this word is museum and restaurant. I can't do it.
Yeah, dude. Every time I hit vacuum, I'm like, two C's are. There's no way it's two U's though.
No way. None of this makes sense. Restaurant is impossible.
Yeah.
I've studied the word restaurant
Trust
to
me.
try to learn it.
Mhm.
Can't do it.
I know.
Doesn't make any sense.
I understand. I like how sometimes in Europe the English were like, we're gonna add U's wherever we want.
Yeah.
Sometimes to make it make more sense. You're like, you can do that.
Oh, like color has a U in
Right?
English? Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so, but the idea is that nobody in a conscripted army, the way that it holds glue, like the way it holds together, is that it can't leave. Everyone's got to stay. Because
Yeah,
what
you were
happens
drafted.
if one guy leaves, one like little city-state leaves, the other ones are going to leave. It's just going to domino. So the leader of the army could probably send some boats back and forth to get supplies. And it would give him a position of authority if all of the supplies from Greece went through his boat, because then everybody has to rely on him. So to me, the power dynamics make sense. And I bet this is how this shit worked. Like, I bet this is pretty close to how a conquest would work in this
Okay.
time period.
Like he's basing this off of things that were probably happening at the time.
Yeah, like this just logically makes sense to me that
Mhm.
it's something like this. Because how else do you keep a bunch of people together for a long siege, which we know from looking over our siege stuff at the beginning of the series, sieges last a while.
Is it fair to say that in this time period, if you're saying a conscripted army, can we just call them slaves? You know what I mean?
No, not for Greece. So slaves are in this.
Because a conscripted army is the idea here is that's a draft essentially, right?
Yes, but I'm saying the city-states were drafted by Agamemnon.
I see.
And so since, when I say Greece, any like historian's going to be pissed at me because there's no Greece at this time.
Okay.
What they are talking about in this story is that the Atreides, not Atreides is Dune, but that's where they get the name from. They get the name from Agamemnon's family, right? The curse of Atreus. The curse of
It
the
always
Atreides.
comes back to Dune, folks.
Dude, I'm on the last 6 pages of Dune 6 right now. Love it. The Agamemnon conquered everybody in the Aegean, and now they have to conquest with him when he calls them. That's how the conquest works. If I conquer your city-state, while I'm, until you challenge me back, if I go to battle, you got to go to battle.
You
with me.
absorb
Yeah.
them.
But they pretty much stay the same. They just pay a tax and then go to
Okay.
fight with you.
Okay. This is the way.
And then Nestor, very much foreshadowing the importance of this night, is saying, of course, that this night's going to shatter or preserve the army, right?
Yes, this night's going to make or break us.
Yes. Okay. That's happening. Agamemnon comes around to it. He's like, all right. I get it. And everybody's saying, essentially, you need Achilles, dude. You need Achilles. Where has Achilles been? We're 9 books in, and Achilles has fought 0 times, which is weird because he's the hero of the story, kind of.
So where is he?
Where is he? He is in his boat, his tent.
Sick, dude. What do you think he's listening to in his boat or his tent?
He's playing the lyre.
Okay, so what are we hearing?
I think they imply that he plays a high little melody and sings along to it, doo-doo-doo. So I'm thinking math, the caution tape that's wrapped around my brain.
Let's go.
Yes,
That was perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what I think. Yep, this is good, high quality analysis there, but it's true. And they need him because he's the one that's going to break. They all know he's the best fighter they got. And Hector is running amok. You can't... I think it also implies that somebody like Diomedes, it's not likely that he's going to be able to do what he did the day before again. He's not that guy. Achilles is that guy. Hector's that guy. Ajax the Greater is not.
Diomedes.
Diomedes is not.
Okay.
There's a distance.
Okay.
Remember even Menelaus saying he's going to fight Hector, and Agamemnon's like, know your fucking place, dude. You can't fight a better man. And Menelaus is not weak. He's killed lots of royalty officers at this point. So something there. We get an oral tradition trope that we've talked about, which is the list making. Agamemnon lists all the things that he's going to offer Achilles if Achilles goes with him, which is long and lengthy. And this list is going to get repeated 4 or 5 times.
Give me a couple things we got on this list.
Jesus Christ. It's
Is Jesus on the list?
if Jesus was available, it would be offered.
Okay.
The list is whatever. It a lot of treasure, a lot of his daughters. He gets to choose between daughters, which are very much
Okay.
the same thing as the treasure. There's also, they keep saying tripods, which I guess are little seats, little a little baseball seat kind of thing, little
Really?
tripod seats. I don't know what else it could be. I've looked it up a little bit, and it's a seat. I'm like, a golden tripod. I don't get this.
Seats, golden seats.
That's what I'm thinking.
Sick.
It's kind of cool. It'd be pretty good flex. You go to a little league game and pop out your golden seat.
Yeah,
and sit on that shit.
yeah. People would be like, "Where'd you get that?" You're
Yeah.
like, "Dude, it's a tripod."
Yeah. Agamemnon gave this to me.
Yeah.
Remembering why we have these lists and why they repeat. This is one of the barriers of reading the Iliad
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't exist anymore. This kind of idea of repeating a list like this. You repeat a list like this, one, because it helps the speaker of the poem remember it. So they remember the place that it happens at, and they remember big chunks of the text because they repeat it multiple times.
I have a question.
Yes.
So sometimes in oral tradition, you would know far more about this. But when you are repeating something, does it have a rhythm to it too? Would it be like da 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 da?
The whole poem has the exact rhythm. The whole poem is written in
like not like an iambic pentameter.
yes, but it's the hexameter one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do we know? What the rhythm would sound like? Do you know?
Yes, it's confusing.
Okay.
I like instead thinking about it figuratively. So C.S. Lewis described it as a slowly building wave, like a repeating slow wave. So it kind of
That's
slows,
sick.
and then it has kind of like a crest at the end. So it's kind of like a slow verse, and then at the end it kind of has like a choppy thing. So imagine
Man.
like your hip hop guy going slow, right? You kind of, and then you end with like an Aesop thing where you go slow, and at the end you just hit a weird line, and then you repeat that over and over and over again.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way of putting that.
I like it.
I appreciate that.
And on
insight.
Patreon, maybe I'll do a quick video for Patreon where I show some videos of people reading like the first line. So you can read the first line in Greek and in English in the hexameter. It's
Sick.
cool. It sounds cool.
Yeah, see, I want to know more about that.
Yeah. Okay, we can do that. That's easy. The list, also the other reason why we have the list is that in mythologies and oral traditions, if you have a long list like that, more of that list is likely to survive the years.
Mm.
And so in mythology in particular, it's important because you're more likely to remember the important bit is likely to survive multiple lifetimes. So if it's a myth about why you should not settle next to Crater Lake because it's actually a volcano and not a lake, you use the word fire like 1,000,000 times. And so when you read that myth,
wow.
the word fire is used like 100,000,000 times.
Very interesting.
So likely the word fire will survive multiple generations. Again, ancient people are just as smart as us, if not more smart.
That's interesting, dude. So you're saying interesting. So like let's go to like the Sermon on the Mount
Yes.
with Jesus.
Great.
Okay. So
My favorite Jesus part.
honestly,
by far.
for real.
Yeah.
So he says, "Blessed are the blah blah.
Yes.
Blessed are the blah blah.
Yes.
Blessed are the blah blah. Blessed,
Yes.
blessed, blessed." And in from what you're saying, that is so that one of these blessed are the
Yes.
holds throughout the generations.
Yes.
That is dope.
Yep. It's a technique that everybody at that time would have recognized as a vital technique to surviving. Isn't that cool?
Chills. Kevin's a good teacher, guys.
Woo!
Look at you on your phone just listening to this free, awesome information in your ears.
All right, we got to go get Achilles now. Okay. Agamemnon, he takes the chiding from Diomedes and Old Man Nestor, and so he steps up from like here on out for the rest of this episode. He's going to send not some weaklings. He's going to send Odysseus, the smartest man in Greece, right? Favored by Athene, the god of Greece, like in Greeks. Like they love Athene because she's fucking terrifying. And she favors Odysseus, like overtly. Ajax the Greater, who is the shield, his shield is bigger than him, and he is literally and figuratively the shield of Greece.
My strength is my weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how he is. He's just a big ass guy, and he has a big ass shield, and he will kill people with the
Yeah.
shield. It's awesome. Because it's fake, people, but it's also kind of real. And then they all send this guy named Phoenix, who essentially raised Achilles. All right. We got some dicks on the screen, if you're interested. We got some little peepees.
We got half a cheek.
Yep.
We also got, is that a liar?
That's a liar. Yeah,
Look,
I wanted to show you some liars.
We got some dicks and liars on the screen. If you are a Spotify listener, open up that phone and check us out.
I like the butt. The butt's nice.
That is a nice, strong cheek.
You think that's Odysseus?
Well, I will say that his cheek is not proportional to his, like, quad.
That's a runner's cheek.
That is a
It's
runner's
tight
cheek.
and it's small. That's a guy who runs a lot.
That's, I'm not going to lie, that's kind of my cheek.
Yeah. It's not mine. I have a pretty big butt.
Good for you, dude.
Yeah, it was nice.
Listeners,
It doesn't do anything.
email what
Fine.
your cheeks are like.
So, The Liar, we also get a good joke from the musical Hades Town. If you've not listened to the musical Hades Town, you should listen to it. It's fucking cool.
Another
And
thing?
yeah, it's really good. It's on Spotify. Really fun story. It's like a retelling of not Odysseus, the Persephone myth with Hades.
Okay.
It's really good. But when they're talking and she asks him, "Oh, you're a musician?" And he says, "Yeah, I play the lyre." And she's like, "Liar. I've known too many of them."
Right. That's great.
I love it.
That's great.
That's a good line. Okay, so they go and find Achilles and Patroclus in Achilles' tent because Patroclus is always in Achilles' tent. There's a big debate, kind of fun analysis of are Achilles and Patroclus lovers in the night? Who knows? They are. Like 120%. But
Oh, do you think they've kissed? You know what? Call me when they fucked, dude. We're not in
Yeah.
middle school anymore. How old are these people? These people, these characters?
Patroclus is older than Achilles by a little bit,
But
but
they're
Achilles is pretty young, like 20,
they're
18.
fucking.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The book Song of Achilles takes the stance of them being like in love the whole book and like legitimately gay, but I feel like she's also using a modern interpretation of like gay and homosexuality. Whereas if the term doesn't exist, we talked about this at the 300, if the term doesn't exist, does the thing exist? And so I think they're just fluid as hell,
Yeah.
which is cool. Like, do you, man? And so they do their man, and then they do women too. They don't care. They're fluid. That's what I.
Who
that's what I
cares?
think.
Yeah, man. Back then was crazy. Again, story.
Yep. So anyway, they go into the tent. Achilles is playing the lyre and singing for Patroclus, and Patroclus is staring at Achilles in silence because that's essentially what they do every night. Again, the people that like
They-
I like reading an analysis of it because it's fun. What I really like is classical people. Like I can see why it still exists because like who reads this book but like crusty generals and stuff, right? And so they're like, he wasn't gay. Like, no, they just were friends. Like I was friends with my friend in Vietnam and some things happened, but no, we're not gay. And I really like that. I like that survives the ages.
I like your stern. I go to church on Sundays, sounding old man.
I have some experiences I don't like to talk about.
Okay, so you know Chuck Palahniuk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the writer of Fight Club and all that.
Oh, yeah.
So he wrote a book called Stranger Than Fiction, which was like a bunch of short stories.
Okay.
One of them was about, and if I'm butchering this, I apologize. I haven't read this since high school. But one of them was about him going and touring a submarine in the Navy, and he like toured it, whatever. And then towards the end, they were basically all just like, overtly placing out these like, oh, we fuck each other, but we don't jokes.
Great.
And
I like this.
it's Chuck Palahniuk was like, I didn't even bring it up, but they were all like. So then he looked into it, obviously. And was like, oh, so like there's no women on submarines.
There are now.
But there weren't.
Yeah.
And like, obviously these dudes are down there and there would be like a high level. I don't know. I wasn't in the Navy, but apparently dudes get down on submarines, or at least have in some capacity.
Sure. I think 18-year-old dudes are going to get down no matter where they are and with who they are with.
He said, sure. Yeah. People fuck.
Yeah.
All right.
So they offer Achilles the list, Agamemnon's long list. It takes forever. Again, this is one of the berries of reading it. I like Achilles' response. It kind of gives us a clue what he's thinking at this time. Achilles says, no. Why did Atreus' son gather an army and bring it here, if not on account of fair-haired Helen? Do they then alone of mankind have love for their wives? These sons of Atreus, don't all decent and sensible men love their own wives and care for them, just as I loved mine with all my heart, my spear captive, though she was, which is, if we pick this apart, hilarious. It's a hilarious quote.
Break it down for me.
In modern terms, it's hilarious. He starts out by saying, "We're here because Menelaus loves his wife and his wife was taken from him. I loved my slave that I captured and hold a spear to so that she'll have sex with me. And I'm pretty bummed that she's gone." Which is such a good, like, what? The fact that, like, he would say this to the other high generals.
Like, so obviously I understand
Yes. And
what this feels like.
it does, I think, show us some of what does love look like for royalty at this time period. That's Menelaus loving his wife, is as much as Achilles loves a spear captive, meaning
All right.
somebody he captures with a spear.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you broke that down because I did not get that.
Yeah, it's really fun. I'm trying to always get into the heads of the armies that we cover, and so I was playing Age of Wonders, and I made a Greek army as much as I could. And I was choosing their attributes and designing their civilization, and I had to choose slavery as like one of my attributes. Like when I conquer people, I take slaves.
How'd it go?
It bums me out, even in a
But
fantasy-based video game.
For sure, but how did it go?
Oh, it's really useful.
Yeah.
Do you know what I do? It didn't take me long. It took me like an hour until I'm like, I'm just going to send in my slaves first.
That's
so
what I'm
that when they
saying.
die,
Yeah.
they attract the bait. They bait the army in, and then I flank them, and I actually use my phalanx to just crush them. And it works really well. I don't feel good about it. I had to stop playing last night. I was like, this is kind of bumming me out.
Is this how it feels? You think I like having slaves?
Yep. That's where I'm at with that.
This hurts me more than it hurts you.
Yes, exactly it. All right. We also get Achilles finally revealing, although it's kind of common knowledge now, the prophecy. So if you watch the movie Troy, they say the prophecy early on. Most people who know the Iliad story or the Trojan story know the prophecy. The prophecy is that Achilles could not go to war, live a normal life, and be forgotten, or he can go to war, achieve glory, and die.
Why do I always have to have prophecies?
Prophecies are big in Greek culture.
No, in everything.
And in everything.
Like, let's talk about, there's a prophecy in Dune.
Mm-hmm.
There's
So
right?
the Dune one, the Atreides, like I wasn't joking, the curse of Atreus is absolutely directly influencing when Herbert wrote the Atreides and why the Atreides are going to be evil. Because Atreus is cursed and evil because of all the power they
Okay, so
gather.
can we find some connections from other prophecy things here? Is there a prophecy in Star Wars?
Yeah,
There-
somebody
yeah,
bring
there-
balance to the
There
force.
you go.
Yeah,
So there's a prophecy there.
sure.
Where else is there a prophecy? I mean, obviously there's prophecies in the Bible,
Mhm.
right?
Lots of prophecies. Lord of the
Lots
Rings.
of prophecies.
Lord of the Rings has prophecies. Well, they have like riddle prophecies.
Why does there have to be like what is the significance of a prophecy?
Not to besmirch religions, because I just focus on the literature side, but I think it's just a literary technique. Like it's a device.
I don't think that's a negative thing
Okay.
in religion at all, in my opinion.
So like Tolkien, I love his prophecies and riddles because he takes like the Middle English, Old English style where you kind of play with it. So the Witch King of Agmar, he's one of the ring wraiths. He's the most powerful one, obviously. And I've been deep in the Silmarillion too this year. It's been good. Third go at it. Really stuck this time. And the Witch King of Agmar, his riddle or prophecy is that no man can kill him. So the riddle you end up becoming like enslaved by your own prophecy or riddle, which is Frank Herbert's like lesson in Dune, that you don't want a prophecy or riddle. You don't want to know the future because then you get trapped inside it. And so then he thinks that he's immortal and then dies because a woman dressed as a man and stabs
this
him.
is like putting yourself in a box.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is like these are those people that walk around. I have ADD.
Yes.
And it's like you don't have ADD, but now you are acting as though you do because you
Yes.
have put yourself in that interesting little identity box.
Yes, that's it. I say
Interesting.
with Greeks, it's more interesting in Greek mythology because Zeus is kind of sometimes just interested in prophecies. The whole "you will be stronger than your father," that
Mhm.
prophecy, which is why he made Thetis,
Whoa.
Achilles' mom, marry a mortal because he wanted to see what would happen. He could have made her not marry anybody, but he's like, this prophecy's kind of interesting.
Dude, do you think this is why people do the same names, like seconds and thirds and juniors for like, do you think that has anything to do with it in their minds, like some type of prophecy?
Nope. Not even, I don't think that once occurs to them.
Just secession.
It's just
lineage and secession and pure ego.
It has to be, right? I mean, but I thought, my second son's middle name is our like Italian family name. But I was kind of trying to like honor like my grandfather having the name and like passing it down. But I don't know. Names are weird.
It's all weird.
It is weird. So that's the prophecy. He can either live a normal life or come here and fight and die. And this paints a little bit more of a three-dimensional picture of Achilles and makes him a little more interesting. His reason for not fighting is he's saying essentially, I'm going to die here if I fight. I want it to be on my terms. Like, I want to get the things that I want to get. Sure, the things I want to get are reprehensible by modern standards, but in his culture, in his time period, totally normal. And I'm not going to die for Agamemnon for something while he's also like taking the piss out of me. Like, just not how it's going to be. And they critique him, Ajax and Phoenix. They're like, you're being prideful. You're not being the hero. But I kind of get what he's saying.
Absolutely.
Like, if I believe this prophecy is going to kill me, then I want to do it on my terms or I'm not going to do it.
Oh, dude, if somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh, dude, all of Vacaville is going to be saved, but you have to go like,
right.
You have to go like, you're going to have to go and spread your butt cheeks and they're going to have to put that picture on the overpass and everyone's going to have to see it for like a week straight, dude.
Sure.
I'm going to be like, all right, bet. We're going to do this on my terms.
Everybody's got to say please first. Everyone.
Exactly.
That's how low my bar is for teaching these days.
Everyone
if somebody could just say please or thank you at any point in my day, I think I would be satisfied.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So I understand Phoenix, he does give like a good critique of Achilles because Phoenix essentially is the one who raised Achilles. Phoenix has his own weird story going on. I'm not going to get into it, but he's like, I'm the one that raised you, dude. You should trust me a little bit. And Achilles is like, no, and you should probably just stay with me because I think I'm going to sail home tomorrow. So Achilles is contemplating sailing home. I think he ends by saying he's not going to, but the language is a little confusing on that.
I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce, dude. Which I get. Okay. And then, of course, Achilles and Patroclus lay down next to each other with women on either side of them. So, again, do with that what you will. I don't know.
Just going at it.
I guess so. They're going to have a great night. They're playing the lyre. I like that the women are just laying in the bed the whole time.
How...
Terrified. Oh, wait, I had something else on the prophecy. The Song of Achilles, the retelling of the Iliad from Patroclus' perspective, her take on the prophecy is really clever. Thetis, Achilles' mom, she wants him to go because she thinks he can still work within the boundaries of the prophecy if he accumulates enough greatness in the war that when he dies, he can then be granted godhood. Which is kind of a fun, that's very modern, trying to play, like very like Middle English, right? Like play with the prophecy. And it's always been that way. You look at like Oedipus and stuff from this time period a little bit later that very much like you get trapped in your prophecies and you play with the idea of the prophecy. But that's a clever take on it. I like that.
Yeah, that is
cool.
When
I read that, I was like, I wonder what Homer would think of that one. Like if he would have been like, I'm going to fucking steal that. That's good. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Was I?
Something important.
Oh, no, it's okay.
All right. All right, Book 10. Book 10, folks. We're in the night now, right? The night's been going on. The way that I think about it, I was trying to do a little bit of math on this, or not math, but trying to understand some of the terms they're using. They talk about the watches and how many watches before dawn. So I believe that there's 4 watches total in a night.
We're talking about Military watch, right?
military
Mhm.
watch, because something we haven't talked about since last episode, but we should, is that while the Greeks are in their camp and they have their wall and they have their little moat thing that they built, on the other side of that little hill is all of the Trojans and all of their conscripted soldiers with fires all around them so that there's enough illumination where they can see the Greek boats. Because they said, if the Greeks try to leave, we're going to burn their ships down. Which is pretty wild.
That is nuts. We're going to just suffocate them.
Yes.
We're going to Waco, Texas them.
It is a total Waco.
Yeah.
Waco move. Woo! Waco. Big swing and a miss there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Agamemnon, he's not sleeping. He's nervous as hell. Achilles isn't going to fight. He doesn't even know if Achilles might sail home the next day, right? That's on the table all of a sudden. So, Agamemnon is not sleeping. He's worried Achilles is going to sail home or not fight or whatever. He knows that the Trojans are on the other side, just waiting for him. And he's essentially going to walk around and wake up some other officers. And they all kind of have this bad feeling that something's going to happen tonight. We talked about in the last episode, night battles do not happen in this time period. Except for that they do, I think. It's just, I think a night battle until very recently in human history was a legitimate coin flip. You did not know who was going to come out on top, if anybody.
You just can't see anything.
You can't see anything.
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've talked about how much, how important communication is in this time period, in all time periods of warfare. But not being able to see anything and having the limited communication techniques, I just don't, there's no way to know what's going on.
It's suicide.
Yes, absolutely.
If you say it's a coin flip, that to me sounds like suicide.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially a coin flip. But it's not even a true coin flip. Within the coin flip, there's also the chance, even if you succeed, you lose at the same time. You're also going to be crippled.
It kind of seems like some Masters of the Air stuff.
A little
when
bit.
When they
That's
were
a
doing
good,
the night runs
yes.
and all that. Yeah.
That's a really...
And the British were like, you guys are dumb.
Yeah, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Even if you bomb them, you're going to lose 1 million ships.
Mhm.
Yes. But they are afraid it's going to happen. The Trojans are set up to do it. They have as much illumination as they can. They have the armies. They have the advantage right now.
So they're going to send it.
So they're worried they're going to send it. And, they get everybody up. They get old man Nestor up, which I always feel bad. Waking up an old guy, he's already super tired. And they're like, all right, man, you got to help us motivate some troops. Must take a while. Although maybe he's up.
Yeah, old people have a hard time sleeping, I feel like.
That's true.
Sometimes.
You know what?
I
That's
feel like
absolutely true.
when you have more memories than you do time left on planet Earth, that
Whoa.
probably makes for some intense dreams, bro.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I imagine old people. I know my father, late in his life, he despised sleep.
I've never liked sleep.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't like it.
What do you not like about it?
It's a waste of my fucking time. I want to read or learn or play guitar, and I can't because I have to fucking sleep.
You have the itch.
Yes, I don't want to sleep ever. I've never wanted to sleep since I've been an adult.
I will say, recently, my waking up early and having my me time at 5 a.m.
I love my 5 a.m. time.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying
Yes.
it.
I chug water so I can wake up a little bit faster, and then I try to read or do something or run
Yep.
around or make coffee.
Yep.
Have fun. Getting older.
Mhm.
All right.
We're old man Nestor now.
Almost. Our knees still work. Old man Nestor's always bitching about his knees. Okay, we get a good Custer line here. Reminders to Custer. Custer had this great part of that story where he sends a guy to go get supplies, but the note is fairly ambiguous
Mhm.
because it says they need lots of supplies, but it says they need them quickly. And the guy says, essentially, if I'm correct, do you want me to do it or do you want me to do it right?
Do you want me to come quickly or do you want lots of
Because
supplies?
you can't have both.
Correct. And do you remember what he chose?
Supplies?
Yeah, he did not come quickly.
Yeah. But, that's just one of those things that so many people, and I think at all stages of success in life, there's so many people, and I think it's always been this way, don't appreciate technical language or precise language because it feels boring to them or it feels tedious. And then you get a case like this, it would be nice if you fucking knew how to say what you meant. It matters here.
Yeah. That's why radio chatter is so important.
Sure.
like when you can't hear someone and you say again your last. I forget what the reason was that why that was for, but that's like why you can't say a specific thing because certain words can get you can get cross words, bro. And if you get the wrong, if
culturally specific words, and there's so many things to do it.
Yeah. So
and
words mean things.
So anyway, the Agamemnon, he's freaking out, so he tells Menelaus essentially the same thing. And Menelaus replies, "What do you mean by this order? Are you telling me I should stay there with them and wait until you arrive, or hurry back here once I've told them your requirements?" So he's essentially saying the same thing that guy was wanting to say to Custer. Like, which one do you want, dude? You said both.
Gee, I wonder why this would be studied at West Point.
Yes. And it shows what Custer should have done, because Agamemnon then immediately replies, "Stay there in case we fail to meet each other as we go. There are many paths running right through the camp, and wherever you go, call out, tell the troops to stay awake, address each man, cite his lineage and his father's name, treating all with respect, but don't put on airs, but rather let's join the hard work ourselves." Much more specific than whatever. He told him essentially like a 2-line thing before. And then Menelaus kind of critiques him like, "What the fuck do you want?" And then Agamemnon's like, "Oh, I'm going to tell you exactly what I want now. I'm going to tell you exactly what to say to every dude. Because I can't waste any time. If you're not understanding, instead of me getting mad at you for you and I not being on the same page, I'm just going to assume that I have to just explain every detail real quick." Which I like.
Interesting.
That's what I think that's what the leader should do.
I'm watching this show that a bunch of people told me to watch called The Chosen, and there's this part where Matthew is reading some of what Jesus wants to say when he does the Sermon on the Mount. And Matthew, the way he's portrayed in this show is he's very... if I'm being completely honest, and I don't mean any disrespect, but they're portraying as though he is on the spectrum.
Okay.
Like he's a tax collector,
Sure.
He's very good with numbers, and he's very literal.
Sure.
And so when he's reading Jesus' words, he's like, "So dude, are you sure you want to say this? Because this is kind of what people are going to interpret it as. This is how I interpret it. So are you sure you want to say this?" And then like he's kind of going through it, and I was like, that's tight, dude, that this dude is sitting down with Jesus and being like, "Are you sure that these words..."
read this real quick?
Yeah. It's a cool moment. And so that's cool that even in this story, there's a moment where it's like, "Hey, dude, what you're saying could mean a lot of different things."
Yes. And if we're looking at this as a literary teaching technique for military officers, Agamemnon is so quick to make fun of and punish and critique as many people as he wants to. Like the whole book. But in this scenario, does not.
Okay.
So I think that you're supposed to pay attention when he doesn't. When he's like, because he does also get reprimanded a lot. And when he takes it, I think you're supposed to be like, "Oh, this is a scenario when the guy should confront his superior, and the superior should take it." And Agamemnon just takes it, just moves along. It's good.
Yeah, that's a lesson that's really hard for officers to learn, I think.
I would think so.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, even in teaching.
Absolutely.
Like all the time.
This is just the work world, period, across the board.
In all aspects of it.
Yeah. That's incredible. It's a good story, this Iliad you speak of.
I think Iliad's pretty cool. Okay, so they find Diomedes. We're going to get some descriptions of the armor, which is fun. Because not all of them come out with their weapons, right? Some of the guys are just like literally woken up from a sleep and kind of thrown out into the lines and have to kind of pick stuff up. So we get Diomedes. He comes upon him outside his hut with his battle gear. Round him his comrades were sleeping, shields under their heads. Their spears stood upright, rammed in on their butt spikes, bronze gleaming bright and far like Zeus the father's lightning, which is fun. What's happening here is Diomedes is woken up, and Menelaus and Agamemnon and Nestor are kind of just like, "We need to know what's going on out there. We need somebody to go out into the darkness between the two armies and do a scouting mission. Get some intelligence."
Fuck that.
And we're going to see a difference between the Trojans' version of this plan and the Greeks' version of this plan. The Greeks' version of this plan, they're saying it's so important they can only send a high-level officer, which I find fascinating.
That's right. This is the moral quandary.
This is the moral quandary. Mm-hmm. We got into it last time. We'll get into it this time with more pizzazz. So eventually, I'll kind of skip ahead on this. We get Diomedes and Odysseus, because Diomedes just had a God mode moment, right? He's feeling it, And Odysseus, smartest man in Greece. Most clever man in Greece. Maybe that's more accurate.
That's an important distinction to make.
It is, because he's unmatched quick-wittedness. That's what Diomedes says about him, I think. So we get a description of Odysseus. I like Odysseus. It's worth our time getting the description of him to kind of understand him a little bit better. So Diomedes is saying who he's going to call. He says, if you honestly want me to choose my own companion, how then could I fail to call on godlike Odysseus, whose heart and gallant spirit are ready and willing for all manner of ventures, and Pallas Athene loves him. If this man goes with me, we too might come back unscathed from a blazing fire, such as unmatched quick-wittedness.
Which means
Odysseus is the dopest dope you've ever smoked. He's the smartest guy. We were trying to think of a parallel with him in our culture, and it's hard because you asked last time if it was Elon Musk, which was a good starting point, I think, for the conversation of like who to compare him to.
I think who you ended up going with was Tony Stark. He was like in the Marvel universe.
Yes.
He was Iron Man.
I think a Tony Stark because Tony Stark is clever,
Yeah.
but early Tony Stark, not once Tony Stark gets a conscience and is afraid.
For sure.
Like not.
Because that's so. Here's the important distinction. Here's how I'm going to view this. Right? You're saying he's clever. It's why people are like, well, what's the difference between clever and being smart? Well, if you look at like Zootopia and like the fox in the
Yes.
beginning, he's very clever, right? He's a fox, but he isn't smart enough to realize that he's like being an asshole to people.
Sure.
And like, you know, sometimes being clever doesn't always translate to like social smarts
Sure.
or other different types of smarts that you would have. So
Yes.
clever would just be in this case like, oh, that's interesting. That's a like, you know, a clever or witty, as you said,
Yep.
moment, but it doesn't necessarily refer to as like just like highly intense intelligence.
Yes.
You would be good at a test.
Yes, because I think he would be good, but you're right. He's not, you know, I forget the dude's name, but there's the famous story before Odysseus' time, which would be the creation of the maze and the Minotaur, which is very much related to that. But like that guy was the smartest guy, the guy whose son ends up flying to the sun and melts his little wings.
Icarus?
Icarus. But
Okay.
Icarus' dad, I forget his name.
Okay.
But they are on an island trapped by a king and like his witch wife or whatever, and so they make he's the smartest man, so he creates like a maze that no one could get out of.
Like a labyrinth?
Yeah, that's where the labyrinth comes from.
Got you.
With the Minotaur and the maze, that sort of thing. But Odysseus, he's like so politically clever, and we don't really have maybe like Obama a little bit when Obama was like crushing it against Mitt Romney, who was pretty formidable. Like Mitt Romney he had a good campaign.
For sure.
And Obama's was just scary good.
I feel like when I think politically clever, I like the bully pulpit with like Teddy.
Sure.
Like I feel like he was pretty politically clever. Like that's why people liked him.
Sure. Kind of like a Churchill, but not hated.
There we go.
Like Churchill.
There we
Churchill
go.
was hated though, you know, like even at the time.
Yeah. But
It's hard.
sometimes but he's clever. Politically, he's clever.
he is
That's the
politically
point.
clever.
It doesn't matter if he was like you know, people are like, oh man, he's kind of sus.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Politically, he is clever.
Yes. And Odysseus is the one who's going to end up, you know, coming up with the Trojan horse. That's his idea.
Clever.
He's the dude who thinks of it. Okay. So we have two great officers, two of like the war leaders of Greece going out, scouting mission. So what do the Trojans do? Again, this is a teaching tool for, you know, people almost immediately after, like Alexander the Great, are going to read this as their teaching tool for military minds. The Trojans take a volunteer. They essentially ask for an enlisted guy to volunteer to go out there.
Well, get over here.
Yeah, but they do something which, you know, I don't think we have this in even our army and military. I'm thinking in World War II when we needed to run communication wires. And so you had to go like, you know, under barbed wire or around mines, you know, go out into a no man's land to try to get a wire to your, whatever your front line is so that you can establish communication.
Mhm. Wire dogs.
And we would just tell people to go, right? It wasn't like you get a bonus if you do it.
No.
But they should.
Of course.
They should say, I'll give you
There should be
$100.
incentive.
Like there's a monetary established incentive.
So I think, okay. So here's what I do think would happen, especially back in like World War I days.
Sure.
Or even World War II, right? If a dude, Private Parker, runs out there like, hey, dude, we need this wire from X.
Hella scared.
Bro, of course. Because it was like, dude, you're the lucky one today. You're doing it. this dude goes across and he does it. Let's say he hits complications. If he survives, they'll be like, oh, well, Private Parker, you're now Lance Corporal Parker for that. You know what I'm saying?
Or you don't have to go next time.
Or that. So
you hope.
Yeah, absolutely. So either you, and so technically speaking, if you did get ranked for your bravery, that would be compensation.
Sure. No,
That would
absolutely.
be
Like a
more
battlefield
pay.
commission.
Mhm.
Okay. This is something I want to dive more into.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because the Trojans say, Hector's like, I'll give you my horses, which is a big deal. We've talked about horses ad nauseum. Horse girls love this podcast. And the enlisted guys, the guy who agrees to it, he's not dumb either. Like, he's not just like, yeah, I'll go. He says, no. I'll do it, but I need you to swear in front of everybody that you are going to give me your chariot and horses and the gold shit that
He's
you just said.
negotiating.
And Hector is not offended by this.
So this shows that this enlisted person's actually intelligent.
Yes.
Not
And
just a dum-dum.
and that Hector, the officer, isn't chided by this. Like, he takes this. Like,
Good for
this is the move that I would do too if I was you.
Mhm.
Yes, I will swear it on my scepter that I will give you all the things I just promised you in front of everybody so that nobody can take it back. Which is cool. Like, I
like
like
it.
this idea.
This is a good movie moment.
It is a good movie moment. I was thinking it's a good classroom moment, right? Like, you have like a deal with the kid.
That's true.
And then you're like, the kid's like, I don't believe you. And you're like, all right, hold on. And you get everybody to listen to you make a promise. Something like that, right? Like the public discourse, like the public trust.
Yeah.
I like it.
And also military. I can see a lot of modern day officers being like, in front of everyone, I will let you know, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I make sure a lot of sometimes too that if I tell a student certain things, I make sure to have witnesses in front of me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Right? So these guys are going to both go out for a scouting mission. Unfortunately for the enlisted guy, the Greeks took a bigger gamble and they didn't send out just a random dude.
Right.
They sent out the smartest man in their country, quote unquote country, and Diomedes, who is kind of on par, right below a god right now. So this guy is not gonna do well against this. They run into each other, and we're gonna start to see Odysseus' intelligence kind of come through. They are gonna throw a spear at him. The guy's name is Dolan. They're gonna throw it at him, purposely missing. Like, they could have killed him right then, but they decided not to. They threw it right over his right shoulder. And they stick it right into the ground because they wanted to scare the shit out of him. And it does. He freezes right there. And they're like, don't move, man, because we don't need to miss. And he's like, I believe you. I believe that you don't need to miss two giant scary dudes who are total buddy cop movies. What buddy cop movie? What's your favorite buddy cop movie right now?
Well,
It's like Lethal Weapon.
I was literally just going to tell you, growing up, we used to, at Blockbuster, constantly re-rent Lethal Weapon 4. Lethal Weapon 4.
That is a crazy Lethal Weapon.
It was
Lethal Weapons are
awesome.
crazy.
It was awesome. I love Lethal Weapon.
This is a Lethal Weapon where neither character has any morals that we would identify correctly. Like, there's no, like, Lethal Weapon. At least you have what's-his-face being like, maybe don't be so crazy, Mel Gibson.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas this one's, both characters are Mel Gibson. It's just one's kind of smarter and the one's kind of, like, stronger.
Okay, second, Rush Hour. I like Rush
Whoa.
Hour.
Yeah, sure.
Those are fun buddy cop. What is yours?
You know which one I was actually thinking of was The Other Guys. I really like.
Oh,
I think that's a great buddy cop movie. Or my favorite is The Nice Guys.
The Nice Guys is great.
The Nice Guys is
The
fantastic.
Nice Guys is great.
It's really good. It doesn't really line up with the story, but it's really good. When he punches the window and cuts his hand,
It's great.
classic.
It's great.
Hannah turns that on sometimes when she's trying to fall asleep, and I hate it because I can't fall asleep to that movie.
Yeah.
I have to watch it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I forgot this movie exists. Okay. They capture him, and let's see what happens to old Dolan here. So we have some artwork that we commissioned AI to create for us. They're essentially going to threaten to torture this man, Dolan, and it's not good for Dolan. Dolan's not dumb. He's like, will you let me leave? And Odysseus kind of has a great line where he says, you don't need to worry about leaving or not. Right now, you need to worry about pain, essentially. Odysseus is saying, your needs are more immediate than something long-term, like, are you going to get back okay? It's going to be, do you want your fingers? Is kind of how I interpreted it.
Ow.
And so Dolan, not being a dum-dum, was like, I hear you loud and clear, friends. No worries. Let me tell you everything, which is what my response would be because I'm a weakling. Also, I've been going to the dentist, first time since like 2008. And I try to be stoic, I even went in, I was like, all right, my mental fortitude, I'll wrap myself in like metal. I'm going to be great. Nope. I will tell you any secret you want. It hurts. I don't like pain.
How many cavities did you have?
Not too many, but one, it's because I had to go because I had a cavity and I cracked that tooth with a popcorn kernel. And so they had to it wasn't a root canal. This is a filling, but they had to touch my nerve a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not enjoy that. My jaw got locked open because it was 3 hours.
Yep.
And they had to massage my jaw to close it. It was and when it closed, it was a horrible thing. I've never had my jaw not closed in my life. But apparently that happens to people. Apparently that happens to me now.
Do you think that if you would have gone to the dentist earlier, this would have been avoided?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
120%. Because it was just a small cavity that I didn't know that I had probably for 5 years, 10 years. And then I just chewed a popcorn kernel because I was eating popcorn too fast.
Well, it could have been worse. They went to go and, help one of my old cavities. They were like, we're gonna help this one out. We're gonna touch it up. And they ended up drilling a hole in the side of my tooth. So
that's
cool.
not good.
No. Well, I love the dentist.
I don't love him. Okay. So Dolan tells everything immediately. Dolan's not dumb. He doesn't want the pain. He understands. And he talks about how there's multiple different troops from multiple countries, and they're all along the ridgeline. He gives them all the intelligence that he has access to. And he also has a great line where he talks about who's on guard duty, because it's almost dawn, right? It's third watch right now. Third watch, I think, is the last watch before dawn. And he says, but the allies fetched in from many countries are all asleep. They leave guard duty to the Trojans, seeing that their own wives and children are nowhere near. Basically saying that third watch came around, and all of the other conscripted soldiers who, under some kind of loyalty, came to support Troy, were like, actually, if we lose right now, your wives will be killed, but our wives will be fine, so we're going to go to sleep. And then all the Trojans had to come stand guard, which isn't really important to the story, but I could totally see that fucking happening like that.
Yeah, it sounds like some military shit, right?
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, then we remember supplication from the first episode? Where it's like a very specific thing. You put a hand on the inside thigh, and then your other hand, you support their chin. And it's like a moment of fealty where you are offering your service essentially, and you're asking for a favor, and it's supposed to be really hard to deny. And so Dolan tries to do that to Odysseus and Diomedes, and it says, at that Dolan tried to touch his chin with one stout hand and implore him, but Diomedes came at him with sword and hit his neck squarely, slashing through both sinews, and while he spoke, his head fell in the dust. So he chopped off his head.
Ow.
While he tried to do that to Odysseus. Intense.
How dare you try to move your hands in a certain way toward me?
But it's clever. So looking at that line again, right, analyzing it, it kind of seems like Odysseus wouldn't be allowed to kill him right there. Because he's doing the thing correctly.
I see.
Xenia, right? How do you treat a
But
guest?
because he is...
Diomedes is the one that killed him, because he was doing it to Odysseus. He wasn't doing it to Diomedes.
Got it.
Diomedes could kill him guilt-free.
Got it.
Bylaws, right?
The bylaws.
The bylaws. We also get, at the end of this chapter, some fun buddy cop shenanigans where Odysseus and Diomedes then go to the Thracian camp. So... the Thracians are very interesting. I might try to dig more into it in a future episode that we have for this series. They're supposed to be supplying Agamemnon and the Greeks, but they kind of seem like they switched sides halfway through and are now supporting the Trojans. And Odysseus and Diomedes murder a lot of them in this camp. I think that's what's happening. It's a little confusing because it's an ancient story.
Who did we compare them to? This last
Sweden.
There you go.
I'm neutral.
Oh,
But I'm also
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Yeah.
I'm neutral, but I'm not.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys have your concentration camp victims come through my country,
Right.
and I'll turn a blind eye.
Yes, but I'll take the gold.
Yep.
And so I think something like that is being hinted at. And Diomedes is just murdering folk. I think he killed the king, and he's just having fun. He's having a great time. Odysseus, essentially, this is Vietnam, and Odysseus like hijacks a helicopter, a little chariot, and he put his aviators on, and he's screaming at Diomedes like, "We gotta go! Like, you gotta come to the chopper!" Because all of the Trojans are coming down on them, and Diomedes is having too much fun. He almost doesn't make it to the chariot. The chariot's like squealing away, and he like has to jump on while it's going and screaming like, "Go, go, go!" slapping the side of it. And they make it off back to the camp.
It's a classic action movie.
It's a classic
trope.
It even goes to the end because they go back to the Greek camp, and the Greeks are like, "Oh shit, that's a Thracian chariot, or that's a Trojan chariot. We got to shoot it down." And somebody's like, "Don't shoot it down. Maybe it's our boys." They're like, "They're dead. Our boys are dead." And then they see him, like, "Oh, holy shit, it's Odysseus. Of course it is. The smartest man in the world, you son of a bitch."
And then the fucking John Williams music
Yes.
comes on, and it's like, da-da-da,
I was thinking Danger Zone, like, you trying to do a flyby?
Okay.
We like to buzz the tower.
Some more so like 80s, like
Yeah.
some snare and boom.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes, absolutely.
Magic the Gathering or a metal album. Look at
pretty
that.
dope.
What the hell is this?
Some art that AI make for us.
Word?
Yeah.
This is sick as fuck.
Yeah, because the night's over. Both sides survived the night. I would say the Greeks survived better than the Trojans because they got the moral victory. They realize they're going to survive through the conflict or whatever, and they got that that kill in on one of the camps, and so they know that the Trojans are hurting a little bit. What we'll see is at the start, it's dawn. Zeus is going to send out only one god today, and that god is Strife. Strife is...
Is that this guy over here?
Yeah, it's kind of how...
Sick.
Strife is no joke.
If you are on Spotify, open up that video and check out this Strife god that we got up here.
Yeah, and it's essentially going to be raining blood.
Essentially.
By essentially, I mean it's raining blood. So Strife's wanting it to be intense. So we got a little description of Strife. Strife, that baneful spirit, cradling a portent of war in her hands. And it's just having it rain blood, essentially, as a sign that today's gonna fuck your shit up, everybody. And we get a little New Testament, Old Testament callback, which is that we see a rainbow after the blood, and it's like the rainbows that Kronos' son, which is Zeus, sets in the clouds as a portent for humankind, essentially saying that Zeus has a plan, which, if we know from Noah's tale, that the biblical flood, the rainbow is the promise that it will never happen again. But we see rainbows in all cultures, and it usually signifies some type of promise or something, because in the Vikings, right, it's the Bifrost, the road to Valhalla. So it's like the bridge between the worlds.
Saying that's the most metal interpretation of a rainbow I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And in Nintendo, of course, it's Rainbow Road.
Rainbow Road, which is deadly.
It's
the road to hell.
A lot of thrown controllers.
Yes. All right, I have the quote for the blood. This fearsome uproar was stirred up amongst them by Kronos' son. From the heights of the airy sky, he sent down raindrops dripping with blood, a sign of all the brave heads he'd soon dispatch to Hades. Whew! And they fight. It's dawn. It's raining blood. They are fucking fighting, and the descriptions of it are awesome. Here's just a short one. So they, like rows of reapers confronting one another who drive their line ahead through a wealthy man's field of wheat or barley, and the swaths fall thick and fast. So Trojans and Achaeans both came charging forward, cutting down men. The language there is trying to have you see a picture of the two armies clashing, but instead of it being like a clash where they both push and they kind of push back and repel against each other like a magnet, instead they are just passing by each other like reapers crossing a farm, just cutting down wheat. Of how easy it is to cut wheat with a very sharpened scythe. And that's what they're really doing to each other, is they're just watching each other just fall. Both sides, yes. And that image is so counterintuitive to what we think of ancient wars, right? Ancient wars are I always imagine the clash and the big push and the cinematic mosh pit where you don't go down quickly.
No.
Maybe one guy does at a time,
It's a
right?
slog.
But this is not that, apparently. This sounds more like later hammer and anvil tactics where both flanks go down.
Yeah.
Right? And it's who can crush the other flank faster.
Yes.
It's fucking terrifying.
I don't want anything to do with any of that.
Yeah. So they're fighting. It's obviously intense right now. Diomedes, he's, trying to fight. Him and Odysseus are in a fight, and they find Hector, and they're trying to hold the line against Hector. It's not going well. They almost get Hector, but they can't fucking stop Hector is the problem. So they're fighting. Paris is then going to shoot some arrows. Doesn't shoot. Shoots with the bow. Shoots some arrows.
I don't like Paris.
Yeah, we don't like Paris. We've talked about that. It's also definitely...
You know who would play a good Paris?
Who?
Russell Brand.
Whoa. Because you hate him?
No, I don't hate Russell Brand.
No?
I feel like he would crush that role.
He could do it well.
You know what I'm saying?
He does seem like weak. That smile looks like, I don't have strong will.
Yeah. He would crush it.
So, and I do think, we talked a little bit about it, but it's uncertain, I think, where an archer rests in terms of, like, honor. Like, do they have honor or not? And I think it's fluidy, but overall it's no. But sometimes yes, because in the last episode, we did have that one guy who stood behind Ajax and was just shooting his bow and, like, holding the line, and everyone thought that was pretty dope. Mm-hmm. But Paris, it's always like, meh, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
Why don't you fight us like men? So there's that give and take there. I don't think it's totally solid. But he shoots and he hits Diomedes' right foot, which isn't good because these are all barbed. And as we talked about,
taking that out.
He shouldn't take it out because his foot is essentially stuck into the ground now because it shoots.
Did we talk about this last time?
So 2 times ago, our second episode, we talked about the poison.
That's what I'm saying.
They're all poisoned.
But also we talked about how, like, in movies, they'll get hit with something, they always take it out.
They pull it out.
It is absurd
when they
to
get
me.
stabbed.
Every fucking movie,
yes.
dude.
Although I watched Red Dragon last night, which I fucking love.
Great movie.
And I was also thinking Hannibal's so scary because he violates Xenia. That's what makes him terrifying. Because what is the ultimate, like, thing that's remained from Xenia in our culture? It's that if you have somebody over for food, there is an unspoken agreement that everybody knows, which is that you are supposed to serve them food they can eat, and that's, like, good for them. And so him feeding them other
like
people is, like,
stuff,
absolutely the biggest violation. And that's, I think, subconsciously or unconsciously what's so upsetting about the Hannibal character.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I had not made that. Yeah, that's really interesting.
But I think that's there. Like, I see it.
I like it.
Anyway, in that movie, Hannibal stabs Will Graham, the detective, and then pulls it out himself after he turns it. And I was like, thank you for not having Will pull it out, because Will's supposed to be smart, and it'd be dumb for him to pull it out.
Yeah.
And then Will stabs Hannibal with some arrow, like a bow and arrow, and Hannibal just holds it. He doesn't pull it out because he's not dumb. Yeah. And I was like, I'm glad that you brought this up again, because
yeah, dude, we literally in boot camp, you learn that if somebody gets hit with, like, shrapnel, you learn how to, like, tie it in place.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because I've taken enough advanced CPR courses for, like, lifeguarding and stuff. It takes so long to convince people, and at the end, I'm like, I don't think they're convinced. That leave the knife in there,
yes, dude,
and just keep it
Yes,
close. And
yes.
everybody's like, but you pull it out first, right?
No!
Like, specifically, we used like a knife in the picture so you could see it.
Yes,
Like,
dude.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and movies do it.
Yes.
I do not understand.
I don't understand.
it. Crazy.
Don't pull it out, folk.
Is that a human
It's a
instinct
human
to
thing.
pull it
It's
out?
a human thing.
Okay.
I really think it's a human thing. It feels wrong to leave it a foreign object like that.
That's probably it.
But
Well, the
Do it.
barbed arrow makes it real simple.
Yeah.
No, you're keeping that one in. You're going to go ahead and keep that one in.
so I think Odysseus pulls it out. Somebody pulls it out. They like cut it out and just rip it out. Not good. So Diomedes is essentially out. Odysseus, remember, he was with Diomedes because they wanted to make a stand against Hector. So Odysseus is now just by himself because they had to get Diomedes out of there because his foot's all fucked up. And Diomedes is pissed. He's like shouting curses at Paris, and Paris is like, I got one.
Yeah.
He's hella proud of himself.
I bet.
Which, I mean, he protected his brother right there because Hector was like having to walk back. So, I mean, it is what it is. But Odysseus, he finds himself all alone. He's literally surrounded by Trojans, and he says, what's to become of me? A black mark if I run for it, scared off by their numbers, and yet much worse if I'm taken alone. Now the rest of the Danaans have been put to the flight by Cronos' son. Yet why does my heart debate these things? For this I know well. A coward may walk away from battle, but a first-class fighter is under an obligation to hold his ground, whether striking another or stricken.
I view this as damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yes. But it shows Odysseus' character, which is he's always trying to find a solution. This is why Odysseus is fun as a character, both as a positive and a negative. I like the new spins on Odysseus as like an evil-y person.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
But he's always looking for an answer. And unfortunately, this is airtight. If you are somebody of importance, you can't run away. You're not injured. You better stay and fight.
You're the answer, bud. You're the answer.
He's the answer. That's a good way to say it.
There is never... I found out, I'm not going to get into it right now, but I found out through my job recently that like one of the most powerful things a man can learn is the moment when he finds out that like no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
When it's you, bro.
Yep.
Like when your family is looking towards you.
Yep.
When your wife is looking towards you for answers. Like when all these people are looking towards you for answers. Like that's a hella powerful and like spiritual baptizing moment, dude. As a person, man, I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Well, even when, Caesar's first fighting the Gauls and the Gallic wives lined the river and they stabbed their husbands if they tried to run away. Because they were saying, we will be put into slavery if you leave us, so don't fucking leave us. You have to stand and fight in front of us. And it was them both putting, their actions in front of their words there.
For sure.
So we get Odysseus kind of not being able to get out of it. And Odysseus is fighting, dude. He's like, they're scared to come at him because I think he's described as like a wild boar at this moment. Like he's fucking doing it. He's committed fully. He has no secret-y way out, which is scary for him. And they eventually will get his ribs, I think. So severed all the flesh from the ribs, yet Pallas Athene did not let it tear in as far as the vitals. Odysseus sensed that the shaft had failed to get through to a fatal spot, so he backed off, and then he had this to say to Socos. Ah, wretch, surely now sheer destruction's on your heels. You may have stopped me fighting against the Trojans, but I tell you, death and the black death spirit will find you here and today. Laid low by my spear, you'll give glory to me, and you're sold to horse-proud Hades. Which is fun.
That is fun.
So Odysseus got injured. He didn't die, so he's allowed to leave with his honor, which he gladly takes. He's like, dope, did it. I'm good. And then walks away. Which makes you think, like, how many times did they just, like, stab themselves?
Look, I did it with honor. I can go now.
I got a cut.
Yep.
Who knows? But if I was all by myself and there was a huge army, I'd be like, what does this honor really mean right here?
Yeah.
Can I think through this?
There's that one character in Downton Abbey who puts his hand up in the trenches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he gets shot, his hand shot so he can go home.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
Although he was a rich fuck that probably should have been an officer.
But I get that.
Yeah, no,
like that's something that
sure.
I think everyone can relate to. Like,
Yes.
oh, you just raise your hand, get shot, go home? Yeah.
I do not judge cowards.
I like I said, I wouldn't. I probably just be like, oh damn, this is my job and I have to do this. But I could see people being like,
Sure.
I just put my hand up and I go.
Yep.
I get it.
This is not for me.
Yeah.
Like one of the worst days of my life. I remember turning in my stupid draft card when I was 18. I was like,
yeah, you talk about this. Well, because
I don't like it.
Well, because that is now there's a probability aspect to it.
Is exactly what I was thinking. I was
Yeah.
like,
Now
it's a non-zero chance.
Correct.
And I'm me, so like if they called me up, I'm not gonna like
You're not
hide.
saying no.
If I said no, I'd say no to them and take the punishment, which is not great.
Yeah.
Getting put in prison
I could see
as a deserter, like it's not fun. Would I have to be a conscientious objector? And like that's not always clear if you actually can do that or not correctly.
You would have been fine in the military.
I would have just joined it.
You would have been very much fine.
Odysseus is kind of getting pushed out. Paris is letting more arrows fly, and he also now hits Machaon, which is the healer. He's the healer of healers for the army, for the Greek army. This is a big deal. This would be, I'm just thinking morale. If you and I are in a platoon together, I'm thinking, kind of Yadrang. We're in that cut-off platoon. Remember that one? Lieutenant Hendricks, I think his name was.
Uh-huh.
If we're out there and all of a sudden our fucking medic
It's gone.
is gone, just gets shot in the head, the panic that we'd have to invite in, like you couldn't keep that from you anymore.
No.
If one of us was to get shot, it'd be like, all right, like nothing we can do, like we got to keep pushing. But when you lose the medic, you're like, all of us are fucked now. There's no hope.
There are some basic things that we can do for each other, but yeah, no, I've no. I'm not a medic.
I'm not a medic, and
Right.
I'm definitely not the chief medic.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in this time period, it seems like these guys are pretty important. I mean, all
100%.
times are very important, but at least later on in modern military, everybody has morphine. So at least if I saw you bleeding out, I'd be like, "Would you like to feel better before you go?"
Yeah. Do you wanna
which
go
would matter?
peacefully?
Which would matter to me?
Oh, of course,
Yes,
bro.
they don't have that.
What movie was it? Is it Saving Private Ryan? Where they're like, give him some more morphine. And they're like, he's dying. And they're, it's Black Hawk Down.
Black Hawk Down.
They're like, give him more morphine. It's like, just let him die in
Yeah.
peace,
Yeah.
dude. Crazy.
Yes,
The things that men have to think about while in those situations is scary.
and that one specifically is interesting because they were taking from their own,
That's what
and
I'm saying.
especially taking your own morphine, like,
That's what I'm saying. They knew it
Yeah.
was a waste. They knew it was a waste.
and that they might be denied that same
That's
luxury.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's crazy.
That's
it
a big
was
deal.
a waste, but
Yes.
they knew it would make him just more comfortable to pass on.
Band of brothers, man.
Yeah.
I wish war wasn't so violent because the positive parts are very
All it
positive.
is. That's like all. But there's remember when Ron was on?
Yeah.
He said something like that there is beauty in this.
I think about Ron's interview
It's one of my-
almost daily.
It's one of my favorites.
Okay. So Machaon gets hit and everybody freaks out. So they like immediately make a hole for him in the Greek lines to get him out. They're very, 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 very scared because he got hit with a 3-barbed arrow. And they put him into Nestor's chariot and they just whisk him away with all speed. Nestor is talking about the value of Machaon, and he says, "For a healer's worth, many ordinary men, being skilled at cutting out arrows and applying soothing herbs." So we now know that Odysseus shouldn't have just yanked out the fucking barbed arrow of Diomedes' foot, because Diomedes' foot's probably fucked up now. But I get it, because his foot was stuck in the ground, because the arrow went so deep into the ground. Like, he couldn't lift his foot.
There wasn't exactly a choice.
Yes. Although maybe, like, break the arrow and just stick it. Yeah, I think I would have done something different. The barb, we know that the barb messed him up. And we do know that cutting out a barbed arrow is the only way. But you have to be pretty precise, or else you're just making a hole in a person's body, which isn't good, I think.
You can die.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think they died a lot from arrow wounds over time.
100%.
In this time period.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Ajax, the Greater, is literally going to be the shield for the entire Greek army somehow,
Damn.
so they can get him out. Like, he's going to hold the line backwards and be pushed back.
He's doing what the Philadelphia Eagles call a tush push.
Tush push.
Yeah, so if they're on the goal line, right, they
Mhm.
they all surround the quarterback and they just like
Just
push
shove-
his
yeah.
butt into the touchdown.
I like
and
that.
It's actually very effective, and they're the only team that's doing it.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of novel. Interestingly, Achilles is wondering what's going on in the fight because it doesn't look like it's going well, right? It looks crazy. Remember the farmers with the scythe? We have strife out there. It's raining blood. Everybody knows it's a fucking...
It's a Thursday.
It's
This is just a Thursday, dude.
It's wild out there. And so Achilles is like, Patroclus, go check out what's going on. And so Patroclus is walking, and then he sees Machaon going, and he's like, I think he sees Nestor. Nestor's like, you gotta go help because you were trained by Machaon. Kind of. He was like helping Machaon. In Song of Achilles, she says that Patroclus and Achilles were trained by the centaur, the famous centaur, the hero builder, Danny DeVito in Hercules.
Oh, Phil!
Yeah. So he has trainings in how to help people and heal. And so they're like, we need you to go help Machaon. And Patroclus is like, do you know who my lover is? My lover is Achilles. If I go and do this, he's going to murder me.
That's his lover?
I don't think he says lover, but I say lover.
Really?
No, he's like, he's my man.
That's my dog.
Yeah, like, this is who I'm with. I'm with Achilles. I can't just go do this. And Nestor's like, listen, if anybody is going to persuade Achilles, it's you. You're the only one who has a chance. So maybe do this and then go talk to Achilles and tell him what's going on.
Eat again.
Yes. Okay. Machaon, when he talks to Patroclus, tells him what to do. We get a little bit of medicine stuff here. But take care of me now. Lead me back to my black ship. Cut the arrow out of my thigh. Wash the black blood from the wound with water that's warm. Spread it with soothing herbs, those good ones that, they say, you learned from Achilles, whom Charon taught, the most just of the centaurs. So Charon, that's the centaur that Danny DeVito plays.
Do we remember the significance of the black blood?
Yeah, black blood. It's a little ambiguous. So we know from us doing research last time that black blood has to do with like the amount of oxygen.
Right.
I believe in this time period, it's similar to like the humors, which is the idea that like you have these different like parts of your body, like these different fluids. And I don't think humors itself was around in this time, or not the way that it's used a little bit later, but the ideas are probably always circulating some type of like, you have bile, you have bad things in you.
Yeah.
And so you need to bleed them out. And so I also think it could be poison, right? They think it's poison. It doesn't look like your normal blood. It's probably because it's an artery. And so it's black because it's highly oxygenated.
That's the reason, right?
Yeah,
It was an
that's what
artery.
we learned is
Yeah.
an artery. But it's probably just good advice to get any poison out and then wash it really good and then use like herbs as an antiseptic
Mhm.
and anti-inflammatory. Because we know that some of these herbs, like Native Americans are using aspirin at this time, or not at this time, but when they are cultivating
Right.
bark, they're making aspirin out of it.
Mhm.
So, you know, who knows what they were able to do. And then we go through so much unlearning after the fall of like the Roman Republic, and then we get to like goofy shit forever until we get to modern medicine. So funny. Like we were so good, and then you like have all these like weird ups and downs with like medicine. It feels like in some time periods we're really good with medicine, and some time periods we're really real dumb. Real hit and miss.
The 90s were interesting.
The 90s. What was interesting about the 90s with medicine?
We didn't really give a shit about nutrition in the 90s, dude. I remember after
No.
every sporting event having Squeeze-Its and Rice Krispie treats.
Yeah, they didn't
and-
care about sugar specifically.
No, they
huh?
really did not, dude. They really, 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 really did not. It was the
And
last...
that food pyramid was wild.
It was off the hinges,
You know what you need? You
bro.
need 10 servings of bread.
bread
Every day.
How
Like,
much bread and milk am I supposed to eat a day, dude? So anyway, the 90s was the wild, wild west for nutrition. I think it was the last decade where the United States was like, all right, we're going to start being health conscious next decade.
we can't fake this research anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so that's essentially book 11.
Book 11's in the books!
The only thing we didn't say is that Nestor does kind of give Patroclus the idea of, you know what'd be cool too is if you dressed up like Achilles and motivated the troops. But that'll come up later.
Role-playing.
A little role playing there. 'Cause
Yeah.
they probably know how each other move. Do you know how I move? Could you imitate my movements? I don't think I could imitate your movements.
Yeah.
You could do
Probably.
it? Damn.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
Like if someone's like, "Can you do an impression of Kevin?" He sees me already becoming Kevin.
I see him taking on the mask come over his head. I got this.
I can figure it out. Gun to the head.
All right. On to our last book of the day, book 12.
Thank you for being here if you've made it this far.
Yes, book 12 is crazy shenanigans. That's kind of hard to explain. I'm going to go broad strokes on this because it's interesting. So backing up slightly, the very end of book 11, we have Agamemnon in his side of the fight. He's able to push all the way to Troy. He makes it to the gates. And Agamemnon is just wiling out. Like, he is having his God moment, essentially. He's kind of described as by himself fucking up all their shit until he's hit by shit.
So he's that song by A Day to Remember where they say, "Disrespect your surroundings."
I do like this. Yes, very similar to that.
Sick.
He's having his Diomedes moment, right? His godlike moment. And he's just fucking crushing shit. And they're pretty scared.
There was a firefight.
Totally accurate battle simulator. We got two to show you today. This first one I made an Agamemnon character to kind of just show him going up against the gates of Troy. So he's gonna just be fucking shit up. So if you can't read it, or if you can't see it, I'll give you some good play-by-play descriptions. It's only 30 seconds.
If you're on
trip.
Spotify, open up your phone and you can watch it on the screen.
So they're going, Agamemnon, I have him with a whip because I just imagined him lashing folks. Probably using a spear. So he's swinging that thing. And he's taking out all Trojans. They cannot stand against him. But Troy has high walls, and eventually he is hit with arrows and slowed down. So eventually he's hit with enough arrows to where he has to pull back.
Sharpshooters save the day.
They do. And that's the Trojan MO, man. Yeah, I think he's like hit, and so he has to go back into his chariot, or his chariot driver's hit, and so then he has to like take over. It's just a whole thing. But it describes him like not in his chariot for a while, just attacking the wall essentially by himself, which is kind of a fun image, like a David and Goliath. I was texting you about that. That's kind of how I was seeing it. Just that he's trying to earn back some of that bravery because he keeps getting chided for shit. Again, this is a lesson. This is a tool for military officers like Alexander the Great. All right.
I love this one. This is my favorite one.
Yes. I also love that your AI art looks a lot like Roman armor. Like, those look like legionaries for sure. But it's cool. I like it.
People get the point.
Yeah, it's fine. Hector takes this time after Agamemnon goes back to kind of take stock. And he's like, holy shit. Agamemnon's injured right now with arrows. Diomedes injured with arrows. Nestor's injured and old. Odysseus is injured. Machaon is injured. And Achilles is nowhere to be found. Ajax is like the only guy left. You have both Ajax, but Ajax the Lesser doesn't make a strong appearance so far. So you just have a giant shield right now. That's all the Greeks got in terms of like lieutenants and officers. So they go and decide to charge the shit out of the Greeks. And let's watch a little video on that I made from Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. Because it's a little confusing how this battlefield is set up. I'm going to back it up, I think, in a second here. Come on, Kevin. Come on. There we go. All right, so right here, let me just kind of describe the battlefield as it stands. All the way on our right would be Troy. And the Trojan army is chasing the Greeks left. And eventually they come to this giant moat, this rampart that the Greeks had dug out. On the other side of that rampart, the Greeks had built a giant wall, as best they could, and some towers along the wall for sharpshooters, for rock throwers and archers. If you keep moving past those towers, then you get to the Greek ships and their camp. So there's not a lot of ground left for the Greeks before they're in it.
Okay.
Remember, this wall is Nestor's idea. They had recently built this, like a week ago. It's
a good move.
It was a great move. Old man Nestor, man.
Battle of New Orleans. The wall won the war.
It did. And this is going to slow down the Trojans. The Trojans have to make a lot of tactical choices here. They want to keep up the tempo, right? They were trading, and they're winning the trade so far because Hector's still in it, but pretty much all of the Greek officers are gone. And so they know that they can keep trading all day now, and they'll win this war. They break up their army into 5 platoons or sections. They realize that they can't take their chariots over the rampart because it's probably booby trapped like Caesar was doing. And so they have to leave them behind. But they make a tactical choice to leave all the drivers in the chariots so that if they need to make a quick getaway, at least the high important officers can get away. Which is partly me as an enlisted dude be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
But I also get it though, because they're also high priority targets. So
Yeah.
it's if I lay down, I might be able to play dead for a little bit.
Part of the system.
Yeah. So they're going to break up into 5 groups. They have to break up into 5 groups because there's only a couple entry points because of the wall that Nestor built, which again is going to slow them down. I believe that 3 of the platoons are going to attack the north side, and Hector and one other group is going to attack the south side. So we have a very accurate simulator, about a minute, of how this was going to go for everybody.
Here we go one more time. Everybody's feeling fine. Here we go now.
Up, here we go.
Got the flow. All right, here we go. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so we see on the north side, the Greeks are able to hold it with a phalanx and just really block out the Trojans. But on the south side, Hector himself is just a terror. So he's unstoppable. He's screaming, and they can't handle him.
Oh, we got the falling man from 9/11 over here.
Dang. What a reference.
That's what it looked like, dude.
It does. On the north side,
oh goodness,
the Greeks are able to stop the Trojans from coming in at first, but it doesn't matter because Hector breaks through, and Hector is essentially just described as a lion who's fucking terrifying, and he's just breaking through their lines. Ajax is pushed back, and he just kind of opens up the gateway. And so all of a sudden, the Trojans are through the Greeks' line, which means that the Trojans are in the Greeks' camp. That's not good. It's not what we want.
No?
It's not what you want.
Uh-oh?
That's an uh-oh for sure.
What are they going to do? Aphrodite is going to happen to them.
Okay, before the line is broken, though, we got to go over a couple of lines. Because we'll find out what happens after. This is book 13 shit. But there are a couple lines that I would like to talk to you about. This is my favorite line of this whole chapter, 9 through 12. Which is, I believe it's Ajax, and he's trying to motivate his troops to hold the line. And he says, "I reckon you know yourselves. Let no one turn back to the ships now he's heard these words of encouragement." Which, if I translate that into my modern mind, what he's saying is, you're motivated. Okay, you're motivated now. It's just...
He's just saying what is.
Yeah, he's saying you are now a motivated human.
Water is still wet, friend.
And my question to you was, this happens in the military, right? You are now a motivated soldier.
Yeah.
Can't your drill sergeant or your
for sure,
sergeant
bro.
say that to you?
Yeah, the whole running thing is you will either get motivated or motivation will be given to you.
Yeah, I totally see that.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because they've given so many flowery, beautiful speeches, but this is not that. This is, you are now motivated. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
This is really fun.
You are now going. I mean, dude, we literally have mandatory fun, Mando fun.
Give me a Mando fun. I'm liking this, a good Mando fun.
Okay, so yes, on paper this sounds fun.
This fun for me not being in it.
So we would oftentimes at Camp Pendleton on Fridays have to go to after work beach day, and there would be a roster there, but you could you're at the beach,
sure,
and you can play volleyball and go, down to the freezing cold Pacific Ocean water.
Yeah.
but it's still a work event.
Yeah.
Like you're not drinking on the beach.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So this
Yeah.
would be the mandatory fun. Like,
Sure.
hey, it's not like, hey, we get to go to the beach. It's like, hey, we're going to the beach at 1 until 4.
Yeah.
And then
No one's leaving. No one's
correct. And then you will be released for the weekend.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Mandatory fun. Let's go have fun at the beach.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I like Mando fun. I could totally see me saying that in a class. Like, we're all having fun now.
Yeah, start telling people that we're gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it in class too all the time. You guys have free time now. That's the mandatory fun, right?
Yep.
Time to do whatever you want.
Okay, we also have a couple other lines that are interesting for this. It's either this is either Odysseus or it's Hector. I've forgotten my notes to write down who wrote it, but it's an interesting line. It says, "Since come what may, the death spirits around us are myriad, something no mortal can flee or avoid. Let's go on to win ourselves glory or yield it to others." Which I think is a sleeper line. Like, no one talks about this line, but when we're thinking about Caesars, like people that come after Greeks, and we're thinking about even the Greeks in this context, the idea of greatness and that's a noble pursuit. You know, fuck morality. Even in this time period, fuck whatever the morality is, besides Xenia maybe. Achieve greatness.
Capital G.
Capital G. Just get it. Get it for your country too, or your city-state. Like, that's even better. But
So clout.
yeah, like
Go
Caesar,
get that clout. Go
Caesar
get those.
committing genocide and everyone being like, this is the dopest thing. Like, you got so much for us.
Go be an influencer.
Yes.
Okay.
No qualms about what you're peddling
No,
or
just
how
go
you
get it.
there.
Go get famous. Get rich or die trying.
Yes. And to me, this is a difference even from what you were, that example, which is a good example, like the influencer, because the influencer can be offended, right? If they get their clout stolen, they can talk like this. You know, like they can post a video where they're mad about their clout getting stolen.
Well, so what is that part in Midnight in Paris when Hemingway says, well, you're also a writer, so I hate you.
I hate you. Right. And that's because if it's bad, I'm going to hate you because I had to read bad writing. And if you're good, I'm going to hate you because I'm not you.
There it is.
Yes, that's a great line. Great reference.
Thank you.
And it's not that, which is good, right? It's good to define by negation because Hemingway wouldn't be able to survive in this context, because this context is saying we all want greatness and someone's got to yield it. So I'm not even offended if I die because they're just trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do. There's like an understanding there, which is
also some Yadrang stuff.
It is some Yadring stuff, some recognizing,
game respects game.
Yes, that being the ultimate challenge.
So this is teaching us sportsmanship, almost.
Kind of
good sportsmanship.
Yeah,
good like respecting your enemies.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
Kind of.
I would say
understanding that they are also trying to get the same glory.
Yes, and not being offended when they try to get it. Right.
Yeah. It's like in a football game, if somebody tackles you, it's like you're not going to be upset with them trying to tackle you. That's part of the game.
Right.
I guess.
But people get upset about things all the time.
For sure.
And so it is a good lesson. I think it's a cautionary lesson because in our modern society, we should put on guardrails about like how far to go. Like, how much glory should we be competitive for and accept in one another? But I take your point that I do try to foster this to a smaller degree with my kids and my students at all times. Like, no, we should be competing against each other at all times. And, like, I challenge students constantly to beat my ideas or to, like, prove me wrong because I think it's better. And I'm not going to be offended if they are smarter than me. I'm going to be stoked. But sportsmanship's hard to teach in our culture sometimes.
Extremely.
I didn't think it was going to be hard to teach, but people struggle with this shit.
Yeah.
Like, people I respect.
That's why for the first week of school, I taught my kids the second law of thermodynamics, which is entropy.
Sure.
So randomness.
Yep.
So it set up games that involved the person who won only won because of randomness.
Right.
And we talked about slot machines, and we talked about why I was like, if it's a gamble, then why are we doing it?
Right.
Like, why are we doing this if two teams are exactly equal when they play each other, they're not going to get a tie. Someone's going to have to win,
Yes.
right? So I was just like, so why do people do it? Why do people play? And they said for experience, to have fun.
Because they think that they are the one. They think that they are special.
Him.
Yeah, well, 'cause
I'm him.
they talk about that in Range all the time, like why people are bad at data analysis. It's like people are terrible at data analysis. If you say like you have a 30% chance of succeeding and a 70% chance of losing something big, people take that. They think that's good odds.
Do they really?
Like people are terrible with odds
Why?
when it's their person because they think I can make it happen.
Oh.
So like you have
It's,
a 30% chance of jumping this gap. I could fucking do it.
Delusions of grandeur, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Yes. On smaller scales all the time. And it's really been humbling for myself. Like, I have to constantly keep this in check if this is true. And I do have to keep it in check because it is true. Like, we all do it, including me, all the time. I could just do it. I could figure this out.
Yeah.
But then, like, are you actually looking at the data? Or are you just coloring it to fit your needs?
I'm mentally preparing for when I get a big injury that involves me going to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Because of numbers.
Right. It's going to happen.
Statistically,
Yes.
it's going to, yeah, absolutely.
So, very interesting. They broke the walls. And following up on that line then, our last line that we'll look at, the breaking of the siege right there, right? That little mini siege that they just had.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't talk about that the Greeks lost. It talks about the favoring of greatness, right? Who actually got the greatness in that moment. Again, not punishing, I mean, it is punishing, but not belittling those that lost, but instead just focusing on the person that earned it, the winner, which is interesting. Because it says, until Zeus granted the greater glory to Hector. And greater glory meaning there was still glory granted to the Greeks. It's just that he on his little scale, because Zeus always has a scale, and he gave more to Hector that day. Priam's son, the first to leap down inside the Achaeans' wall, now in a carrying voice, he called out to the Trojans, "Up with you, horse-breaker Trojans! Breach the Agreves' wall! Fling your devouring fire in among their vessels!" So Hector's plan is to now burn all the ships,
Burn it down!
which would be bad.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to pick back up.
Okay. Part 3 of the Iliad. We know part 3. We know part 3. We got
Backwards
it.
and forwards.
Yeah, we got it.
I can do it again.
That was fun.
That was fun.
I do like this. I like where this is going. These characters are the plot is only thickening.
It is. Achilles is still, he has to make an appearance still. We got a little bit of him today.
Yeah, we got almost one would say like a heel's worth.
Oh, there you go. I was going to say a little sneak peek. A little peep show.
Yeah. Well, listeners, we appreciate for the patience. You and I have been busy being human beings.
Dude, so busy.
But we're never going to stop.
No.
Don't stop believing. Anyway, things are good.
Yep.
I'm enjoying this.
This is great.
We should be, hopefully by the time this comes out, the Hazard and Fatigue will have been out.
Yes.
Who knows? The best thing that you could do for us right now is just sharing our show with those you love on your social medias and all that. Just that help. That would be great.
It'd be great. It would mean a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. And until next time,
Okay, hey.